I dedicated 1 full year doing everything to help my girlfriend come live with me in my country. She vanished as soon as she met other people here. One day while I was at work, she then sent a breakup text and cut off all contact. Reddit, what was the harshest way you've been played by someone? My uncle Mike battled liver cancer for several years, accompanied by many other medical complications. He and his wife had been married by the matchmaker in China, then moved to the United States when Chairman Mao came to power. After Mao's death, his wife wanted to move back to China. He was very reluctant because all of our family had moved to the US at that point and there was really nothing back in China for them. All of the family advised him to stay close to us here in the US so that we could come to his aid easily if he had a medical emergency. Knowing that my uncle was dying, but was far down on the transplant list, my aunt offered to give my dying Uncle Mike a piece of her liver under the condition that they do the procedure in China. Her reasoning was that the procedure was cheaper in China. Because nobody wanted my uncle to die, my family all helped my uncle and his wife liquidate his US assets and move to China, under the promise that upon moving, my aunt would give my uncle a piece of her liver. Once they got settled into their new home in China, it was time for the liver transplant procedure. My aunt, who had up until this point claimed over and over that she was going to provide a piece of healthy liver for my uncle, went back on her offer, saying that it was stupid to have the procedure done because then they'd both need time to recover and she couldn't take care of her husband during recovery if she was also recovering. My uncle Mike died last month after the cancer took over his pancreas, and my aunt now lives comfortably in China like she always wanted. TLDR. My uncle Mike had liver cancer. His wife wanted to move to China. He said no. She offers to give him part of her liver if they move to China. Uncle Mike agrees because he doesn't want to die. They move to China. My aunt reneges on her offer, saying that she will not be able to care for my uncle during recovery after the surgery if she is also recovering. Uncle Mike died last month, and my aunt now lives in China like she's always wanted. Okay, this post wins. That's like a real life version of John Locke's dad from Lost, except worse. Yesterday was my girlfriend's birthday. I took off work in the afternoon to spend some time with her. At 6, she went to class as expected, then went to her sister's house when she got out of class. I called her around 11 to see where she was. She told me she'd be home in a few minutes. This morning, I woke up and she was still gone. Her sister called me looking for her about half an hour ago. I started freaking out. What if she was in a car wreck? Her sister called me again 15 minutes ago. Apparently, she spent the night with some butthole friend of the sister. We've been together for 4 years. I'm completely numb. I'm at work staring at my computer screen, watching emails roll in, listening to people talking in the call center in the next office over. I just don't even have anything to say. I am really sorry for you, but I was in something similar about a month back. After a 5-year relationship, just let it go. Be selfish. Meet the ladies. Get your life back on track and everything will fall into place. I got played by a girl about 30 years ago. Had me right on a string. Was ready to move to where she was based and go the whole hog. Then I found out she was having an affair with her boss at work and she told me like it was just a matter of fact thing. I was prepared to cut her some slack for some obscure reasons, then she starts seeing one of my pals. It really fricked me up. Never felt so betrayed when I hadn't was ready to invest so heavily in the relationship. I offloaded her shortly after that. Later, she came crawling back to me. About 5 years after this all happened, she had a kid by some bloke who just shagged her and left. I told her to get lost. Next thing I know, she's onto me again sometime later with 3 kids, pleading that I should come back. By this time I had moved on and got a life, bought a house and was starting to be quite successful professionally. Clearly she saw me as a soft touch and someone to share her burden financially and in terms of childcare. Like frick, I was going to look after 3 kids from her failed one night stands and I told her so. In fact, I gave her a massive lecture on how she'd fricked me about and rightly or wrongly told her to frick right off and never darken my door again. I went on to be very successful in the thing she told me I would never make it in and have had plenty of self-satisfaction knowing she blew her own life looking after kids she didn't want by fathers equally as keen as her. She's penniless on a council estate in the north of England now. I have to say I'm happy with that. Freaking A. My dad's friend and his girlfriend went to Hawaii. Dad's friend paid. An hour after they landed she broke up with him. So he cancelled their hotel room and her tickets back and left. She's still there, wondering what went wrong. I had a female friend that was dating a guy she'd met on WoW. One of several WoW boyfriends that she'd had. Things got pretty serious with this one guy, and he'd made plans to move several states over to her location. She was ecstatic, and all of her friends, myself included, planned to gather together to hang out so that we could meet him and help him move in. The morning he was supposed to leave, he drops off the face of the earth. He won't answer the phone. He won't answer texts. He had no presence online. So, we kind of all sat around with this girl while she continually freaked out about it. She didn't actually know anyone who knew this guy in real life, so there was no way for her to find anything out. It got to the point where my girlfriend, who happened to know some people in this dude's hometown, was trying to get people to go knock on his door, since we did know his address. Finally, a couple hours after he should have arrived, he calls her. His story was that he'd gotten the U-Haul and loaded it, then fell asleep. He slept for half the day, then realized that he'd end up having to keep the truck for an extra day, which he couldn't afford, so he decided to unload it and bring the truck back. He told her that he'd have to get some more money and would come later. Needless to say, all of her friends were pretty skeptical. I, in particular, was pretty sure that he'd never actually had any intention of moving after only a couple of hours of no contact from this dude. The real stunner is that she didn't dump him on the spot. She bought every single line of it. After she'd gotten off the phone and told us what had happened, we all just kind of sat there awkwardly for a while. Finally, I looked over at her and said, "Joel name. He's never coming. He never did. I have to name my first daughter Joel name." My GF asked me to move in with her. A few weeks later she suddenly got a job offer that required her to train in Denver some 1,500 miles away for 6 months. We can make it work, I say. 6 months turns to 8, then to 12. 2 weeks before she's finally moving back home she casually says that she's been given a permanent position there and has less than 2 months to get her affairs together to move back out there for good. After having leaned on me the entire time she was away and us going back and forth on my credit card, now she's not sure about us. I got used as a real life placeholder while she made sure things would work out for her there. Also found out her family had been asking her to take that job for months before she ever asked me to move in. One of the biggest mistakes I have ever made was falling in love with a guy who just got out of a 3-year relationship. He was going to marry this girl, and she cheated on him, lied about it, took everything out of his house and moved away with the new guy. Needless to say, he was pretty messed up, hated her, but was still in love with her. He had feelings for me. We were friends. I didn't want to have a relationship with him because I knew he wasn't ready. We started sleeping together. He told me he loved me, which even today I am not sure if that was true. We are still friends, but I worry about him. I know he isn't happy. I know he isn't over her still. And when he broke up with me, I was devastated. I actually fell in love with him. I was willing to follow him anywhere. I was willing to take care of him when he was old and couldn't walk because of back problems that resulted from a car accident. I realized that's when I loved him. When I was more than willing to take care of him if he couldn't even get up to use the bathroom. And he never felt that way towards me. He wouldn't follow me anywhere, and he didn't want me to stay in a town I hated. He was my best friend, my only true friend for a long time, and now, I have no one. He broke up with me around 4 months ago. Recently just saw him. He lost his job. His looks just awful, and I worry about it. I just want him to be okay. Try to convince him to get help if you can, but don't offer yourself up as his savior. It doesn't help. Source: I've been that guy. I was cheated on, then I forgave her, then she broke up with me while I was on painkillers after surgery. I didn't realize what happened until the next morning when I texted her to come over to hang out. So we were officially broken up and she starts sleeping around within a week after breaking up but still wants to be my friend. So we continue to talk and be friends until I go visit her and she starts off the conversation with "Guess who I slept with?" Never good, and needless to say I thought things were more serious between us, and I guess not. We don't talk anymore because I don't think I could do that. Oh man, just remembered a second worse story to try to cheer you up. My sister was working on her PhD and had been with her boyfriend for a year and a half. He was moving across the country for school. She didn't think a long-term romance would work and told him that they ought to have an open relationship, free to date others. He insisted no, that this would work out. I'm sure you can see where this is going. So fast forward a few months. She called him most evenings and they would talk on the phone. Well, one night, he started getting all weird on the phone. Then he said he thought he heard an intruder outside her, and he was going to check and call her back. 5 minutes pass. No call. 10 minutes. No call. After 20 minutes, she has images of him lying dead and murdered in his apartment. She calls the local police. They managed to get in touch with the police in the town where he lived and sent someone over to check on him. She's waiting on the other side of the country, and finally nearly an hour after losing communication she gets a call, not from his phone. She's fearing the worst. It's the police where he lived, saying that they were fine, no disturbances. She was like and they said the couple living there, they were fine. So at this point, she's no longer worried, but furious. The next day she gets in touch with him and asks him WTF was going on. He tried to make excuses about why there was a girl in his apartment. My sister is not having it. He eventually confesses that he'd met someone out there and had been casually seeing each other, but it wasn't serious. She just had a rough night and needed someone. He would break it off with her, etc. My sister broke it off with him. He had some stuff that he had left at her apartment that she had been planning to give him when next they saw each other, some school notebooks, a shirt, that type of stuff. She burned it. Was dating a girl a couple years back, only a few months in. Seemed to be going pretty well. Then one day at a party I'll even go to the bathroom. I came back and she was gone. Wouldn't answer the phone. Walked back to her place and saw through her window she was fricking some guy. Sucks. An ex-girlfriend of mine lied about cheating on me so that I'd break up with her. I didn't know about that for a couple years, until one of my friends told me that she had overheard my ex bragging to her friends about it. Pretty weak. Had some trust issues as a result. Spent 7.5 years rehabilitating her credit and her health after her husband ruined both. Helped raise her 3 kids, financed their musical instruments, and helped pay for their hockey trips. Helped her refinance her house. Co-signed loans. Paid her mortgage when she couldn't pay it, which was most of the time. Literally gave her almost $2,000 a month for years to help her with her house and her kids. She walked in one day, ended it all, walked away with everything. She begged me to stay friends. The quote was, "I can't imagine you not in my life," and the requests for grocery money started within the week. All told, within the next several weeks, she still managed to get another $2,000 out of me. 6 weeks later, she is in a new relationship. I have been cut off from the kids, and she is accusing me of sending threatening letters to her new beau. I cut all contact shortly afterwards. It became clear to me that although she couldn't imagine me not in her life, she had very clearly imagined herself not in mine. 3 years later, she accidentally but quite clearly admitted on Facebook that the new relationship above started before she dumped me. When I sent her a note asking for an explanation, she responded that her posting was being misunderstood and that she missed our friendship more than you will ever know. I told her that I was confident that Facebook post was accurate and I wanted all the money back that she spent between the time she broke up with me and the time she finally admitted she was in that relationship. She deleted that Facebook post, blocked me, and won't respond to any emails. So I guess she doesn't miss me as much she misses my wallet. I do feel really bad for you, but you're a sucker to have bailed her out for so long. Yesterday I learned that my ex slept with my best friend while we were both visiting my friend for vacations. Apparently it all happened while I was going back home because I had to leave sooner due work. That's the last of lies I've uncovered from my ex after going on a rampage, cheating on me with 4 different people, including another friend, lying to me about it, and claiming those lies were to protect me. Sometimes when we are in love we can't see things for the truth. Don't feel bad for your hindsight. It happens to everyone, sadly. I hope you ditched your friends too. My ex-boyfriend was arrested and was in jail for about a month or so. I bailed him out. but he was on house arrest for another month and was feeling down about not being able to celebrate the new year, while his best boys were out partying every night and barely coming by to keep him company. I was there every single day for that month trying to keep his spirits up. I arranged a little get together at his house with all of his friends for New Year's Eve since he couldn't go out. Lo and behold, he failed to tell me that day his charges were dropped and he was a free man. He dropped my butt that night. Happy New Year. A piece of sage wisdom. Don't date someone who has been in jail. Strange how this comes up today of all times. I dated a girl for 6 months and only broke up a couple of weeks ago. I don't have a lot of experience with relationships, so I figured I may as well try and make it work. We had several talks every now and again about how we both want this to be long term, how much he's falling for me and all of this stuff. All of that typical stuff, I suppose? I'm not sure. Anyway, she was my first and I cared about her a lot. I won't go into the laundry list of issues she had, but she did post on Reddit a while ago and I think there is a link in my post history somewhere for those interested. After the breakup I was pretty miserable. She has been texting me telling me about all of the things she's doing with other guys. She had one of them drop her off to uni and hug kiss her goodbye in front of me, etc. Just generally being spiteful and intentionally hurtful. She is also in a pretty serious thing with another guy she friended on Facebook 2 months or so after we started going out, as it turns out, and I just realized today, I was just a rebound for her. Never did she say I'm not interested in anything serious or anything like that. As far as I knew she was all for a serious relationship and I didn't really know much better. Heck, she never even broke up with me once this other guy had gotten serious with her. She just kept having her cake and eating it too. Ouch. Not as bad as someone vanishing from you like Arp's situation, but the aftermath is pretty terrible. It's 2 weeks on or so and she is still texting me all of these things. She tells me she and, we'll call him Chris, are going to a party this weekend and getting hammered together. Who knows what might happen again, etc. Just generally making my life as miserable as possible, or at least trying to. Through Reddit and a couple of friends I have been able to stay sane, but still, kind of evil. Girlfriend moved to Australia. We agreed to try to stay together. After 4 weeks, her tone suddenly changes and becomes cold and impersonal, like she's talking to a stranger. I complain about this, and she ignores phone calls and emails for a week. Then she deletes me from Facebook and Skype. Finally I get her on the phone and she tells me she's not in love with me anymore and that we should not talk for a while. She admits that she's mostly responsible for destroying our relationship but that she'd like to be friends. A week later I ask why, if she wants to be friends. She won't add me on Facebook again, as a show of niceness. She ignores that, and then another message I send later. 2 weeks after that, she tells me she wants me out of her life forever and never wants to speak to me again. Some people can be heartless for no apparent reason. She was dating someone else. She should have just said, hey, I'm dating someone else now. Sorry, we were done. Instead she chose some weird, ruthless route. I'm sorry she dragged you on for so long. That was just mean. Fell in love with my best friend who had never dated a girl before. We got to a point where we were talking about wanting to be more than friends, but I told her I refused to act on anything until she broke up with her boyfriend. Fast forward a month and she announces they've broken up. Things go well until she's getting ready to move for grad school. Guess who's moving with her? Supposedly as friends in a 1-bedroom apartment? Yeah, they didn't break up. Dodge a bullet there. Chin up : 3. When I met her, she was depressed and lonely all the time. We started dating and I spent the next 3 years trying to bring her out of her shell. There were countless nights of her sobbing on the couch, heartbroken because she didn't think she had any friends and nobody ever wanted to hang out with her. My best friend since 7th grade ended up in a really bad spot financially. He was basically homeless, having been evicted from his previous apartment. I took him in, let him sleep on my couch, gave him money for the bus to go to job interviews and fed him. The three of us, me, GF, and best friend, found an apartment and we all moved in together. GF finally started coming out of her shell and being happier. As her self-confidence grew, mine was plummeting due to dropping out of school and working a series of dead-end food service jobs. She starts hanging out with my best friend a bunch more. Then she starts flirting with him and leading him on. He thinks that this somehow justifies going behind my back and saying terrible things in order to steal her away from me. I find out that he has confessed his love for her the morning that I'm supposed to hop on a train to Seattle for a week-long vacation. A vacation that I took upon myself to clear my head and try to rediscover my passion for life and my priorities. Turns out while I was out of town they were playing house together and that she let him kiss her a bunch of times. They swear up and down to this day that that's all that happened, but I have my doubts. I get super pee off. Tell them to cut that crap out, and they apologize and swear it's over. But it wasn't done. Incident after incident kept piling up until I got sick of it and broke up with her. Come home from a show 2 weeks after we've broken up and find her naked in bed with some random dude. And that's the bed we're still sharing until our lease ends and we go our separate ways. Go figure. Now she's a self-obsessed shallow bee who only cares about her ego. He's homeless again and barely making ends meet while living in his former band's old practice studio. I, on the other hand, have found a new life with a decent job, a plan for my future, and have started dating again. I've gone on some horrible dates and I've been on some amazing dates, and I know now that I don't need to keep awful people involved in my life due to some weird sense of guilt that they used to be people I cared deeply for and that I should still try to do what's best for them. Frick em. Let em crash and burn and be miserable. Crappy human beings. I don't need that in my life. That blows. Sorry man. She got you good. What would be worse than what she did to you, though? For you to dwell on this and be miserable for the next year. Then she fricked you over twice. All I can say is to just learn from this and move on. On the other end of this, you'll come out stronger. Good luck. I had a Russian ex-GF who I suspect of being this devious. I spent a lot of money on her, but I wasn't planning on doing anything wise with the money anyway. Lucky for me our relationship wasn't working out, so I didn't end up getting scammed for a green card. Mel Gibson as I suspected. I honestly cannot even comprehend how horrible of a human being you have to be to do something like that. It's honestly mind-boggling how inherently awful a lot of people are. Not to scare you, but have you spoken to her? Just an SMS? All stuff gone? Sounds suspicious. Maybe just check she is okay. Active on Facebook for example. If she is, well, then screw her. She is. After tons of emails, SMS etc. I sent an email asking if I should call the police. That's the only one she answered, saying she was perfectly fine at her friends and to not call the police. I'm a 20-year-old and reading all of this just makes my heart hurt. I know it's going to be incredibly difficult to trust people again, but I promise you, there are still women out there that don't have a bar of integrity and could trip over. Please get out there. Most people aren't terrible, and they just want to be in honest, mutual love. You don't really ever move on from stuff because you can't just forget it happens. But finding somebody that makes you believe in people again suddenly puts everything in perspective. I am a female redditor. I want to apologize on behalf of this horrible girl. As a fellow college student, I want to tell you that she is clearly ridiculous, and I hope she hasn't changed your mind on how lovely relationships can be. I am traveling Europe starting February. You have inspired me to visit France. I hope I meet you so we can have tasty pastries and talk about what a silly little girl she was for leading you on. This is the part I love about Reddit. About 5 years ago my girl and I were pretty happy in love. She talked about being so happy she could die. I assumed that was love and an ache I could still remember. It took about 2 years until we couldn't make sense of each other. She wanted to stay friends, but I will admit I was glad it was over. The worst part though, she started to treat me like a stranger, even sent her friends to collect her records and she changed her number. I will admit though, I was a sad loser just playing the guitar all day singing some melancholy crap about how she was just somebody that I used to know. I wasted 2 years of my life on a man and broke it off after I learned through his attorney that he was a cheating, lying, disgusting excuse of human skin. It hurts like heck at first. I wish you nothing but the best. You deserve better. Woo. Always love bringing this up. Last year met an amazing girl in club. Got along with her perfectly, and we had almost everything in common. Helped her out of a crappy relationship before she dated me for a few months. She used to tell me that she wished we had been dating longer so she could use the L word. Anyway, one day she tells me she thinks we shouldn't date. My best friend at the time stops talking with me, and a week later they are dating. Pretty sure she cheated on me with him a few times. Sucked at the time, but in the end I realized how crazy she was. Also she lost all her friends because of this. So suck it be. Whoa, sorry to hear this, Lauren. This is a horrible thing to go through. Good luck moving on and finding someone who will be much better for you. Dude. Harsh, I have nothing to cheer you up except telling you hard lessons like this cause you to grow, learn, and will make you a better and stronger person for the rest of your life. My ex systematically treated me like crap, isolated me from my friends and family, and had me convinced I was exactly as bad as she said I was. Then she told me I was a pedophile and a pathological liar and berated me for feeling bad about myself. Then she picked out a therapist for me to see because I was a pathological liar, and told me that if I didn't go and didn't tell the therapist exactly what she, my ex, wanted me to say, she would plant child pornography on my computer and report me to the police. 2 months later, she threw me out of our house and asked for a cashier's check for $10,000 and told me not to tell the landlords. Idiot that I am. I gave her the cashier's check, but even I'm not as stupid as she thought I was, and I realized what a mistake I'd made and told the landlords about it that day. My ex realized I was getting better and smarter with every minute I was out of her grasping talons, and promised me that she'd only use the $10,000 to pay for my half of the rent and would give me all the unused money back when she broke the lease. I didn't believe her for a second, but I couldn't realistically do anything. I told the landlords of her intent to, eventually, break the lease, that I no longer lived at the house, that she had enough money from me to cover my share of the rent for the rest of the year, and that, if and when she missed her payment, they should contact me and I would fix it. The landlords were far more understanding than I had any right to expect. The $10,000 was enough to cover my half of the rent for a full year, and a little bit extra, or the full rent for 6 months again, with a little bit extra. My ex finally broke the lease exactly 6 months after kicking me out. Naturally, I haven't seen a dime of that money, nor did she ever respond to my communications about who would pay what, and when. During the lease cancellation process, she changed the passwords on the utilities, even the ones registered in my name, with my credit card and bank account numbers, and then left me stuck not only with the bill for the final month of internet at the house, but also the responsibility of shipping the equipment back to AT&T while I was in another city, and when I didn't have a key to the house. TLDR. My ex broke down my psyche, told me I was crazy, handpicked a doctor who would also tell me I was crazy, threw me out of our house, and stole $10,000 from me. I have no idea why, but if her relationship with her ex-husband is any indication, she's just a compulsively bad person and loves nothing more than other people's money. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.